I let off way early because I hit something. Oh, that's a lot of rocks and wood chips. All right, welcome back. I've been at the park for about an hour. A lot of dogs out here on this grass, but you can see the dogs everywhere. It's like the wrong time to come run here. But I'm gonna try and do my best to avoid them. I got other things I need to do today. So I'm gonna hit track, start. So it's testing 85%. And we'll see how this does. Back up a little bit. Let me get this car set up now. Okay, I'm pretty lined up in the dirt. As long as those two don't stop, we'll be okay. We're good. All right, let's go. Hit those wood chips instead of my run out. Oh, it is covered in grass and water. Grass is really wet. Stop. Read. 67. Wow. I really thought it was going to be faster than that. Track. Start. That's kind of depressing. 67. Well, the fan is covered. Everything is covered in grass. Maybe it's the water. I don't know. Yeah, there are big wood chips in this thing. In the steering, in the fan. The grass is just too wet right now. The wheels. Well, I wonder if I could run from park to park. All right. It is really wet out here right now. But I felt like I hit full trigger. Maybe the RC is just too wet. Hopefully the ripple's down. gonna try to stand at this pole again. All right, here we go. Let's see. You can see the mark where I nailed full trigger right here, and the cleat's trying to dig in. Stop, read, yeah, 66 miles an hour. We're gonna have to check the data log and see what's going on. The cleat wheels are doing exactly what they're supposed to do. I can do run after run after run and not have to worry about the tires blowing up. But this thing's covered in mud right now. So hopefully we'll see you back there. We're gonna plug in data. We're gonna see what's going on. We're gonna see if this thing, RPMs are way up now. Make sure we got full trigger. Make sure everything's working properly. All right, so back on the bench. I kind of got this thing blown off because I couldn't take it in here muddy. I'm gonna end up making a gear change, and we're gonna go from there. All right, so here we go. Here's just the 2 runs I did. This run right here, this is the one that was 1 soccer field. This run right here was 2 soccer fields. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at a couple of numbers on the first run. So, and spoke to RC Guy Garage, and we changed this setting so that now I can just drag like this, and it puts the box all the way around it. So let's see. You can see this is idle all right in here. So I'm gonna grab it right before my drive back. So here's our run, and you can see on this first run, look at, I'm full trigger. Look how long I'm full trigger on this run. You can see here, I only have a voltage on, ripple on, RPM, and throttle, and BEC voltage. BEC voltage is an important one when it comes to radio reception. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this run. So right here, where I have the mouse is going to be the top one. The bottom one is where we started. So if you look at this, we hit 40,000 RPM. Now, why did we hit 40,000 RPM? Right? Because the motor's 56,000 RPM. On that 1717, 1650 kV, we're only at 40,000 RPM. So did I max out the RPM with my full trigger run? The answer is going to be yes. Why is it going to be yes? Very simple. Look at our minimum voltage right here. We hit 26.0 volts. That means in 1 soccer field, I am maxing out this gearing. Now remember, I did a big gear change. I went from a 30-tooth spur to so I put a 39 in there. And then on the pinion, I ran a 29. So I went from a 30-tooth to a 39 teeth. So I went up 9 teeth on the spur. And then from a 34 pinion, because I was reverse geared, 30, 34, or I should say at 34, 30, because I always put the pinion first. Now I'm a 29.39. So it's a huge gear change. So, and that's because I wanted to spin this motor out and see where it is. Now you got to remember voltage sag. Our voltage sag dropped down to 26 volts. So at 26 volts to hit 40,000 RPM, we pretty much maxed out that motor. Now, the more you gear up, and I take this into account, and that's why I only do 3 runs. Even when I was reverse geared, my voltage sag was 20. I think the lowest it ever dropped was 25. So you can keep gearing up until your voltage sag or your batteries start to fall off really bad. And that's where batteries come into play. So at 26 volts, 40,000 RPM, that's a good RPM number. That's letting me know that I maxed it out. And so this top line is our voltage. You see the red line here, and you can see the voltage sag. This is what we mean by voltage sag. The voltage dropped down, and it's running just right above my trigger right there. My trigger is the black line, which is this line right here, and then you can see it go steady across. And wherever I scroll the mouse, anything over 2.002 is full trigger for my controller. And I'll show you where to look for that. I've showed you guys that before. You just go to your advanced over here. Go to advanced. Here's how I calibrated it. So full forward is 2.002. Why are we over that? Because when I calibrate them, I don't pull the trigger really hard on the controller. I pull it softly. So, because I'd rather go over the number than under the number. Now on this run, I was pulling it really hard because I was trying to make sure I hit full trigger. Adrenaline. So here we go. Let's start the run. We can see the voltage sag. Ripple. Maximum ripple ever hit was 0.80. And remember, I was at 3.1, I think. Now we're under a volt. So here we go, starting the run. You can see the RPM starting to come up. We're going to concentrate on throttle and RPM. So here we go. We're starting to hit the run right here. Our ripple's starting to climb up. Our battery voltage is going to start to drop. Our RPM is going to start to come up. Here we go. You can see that there's a big spike up right here. That's me pulling the trigger a little harder. We're just pulling this trigger, and we're pulling this trigger harder and harder. We're at 1.801 on the throttle. We're 22.409. RPM's coming up great. Ripple is starting to climb. We're at 0.72 on the ripple. So the caps are probably starting to discharge. Our voltage is at 29.6. So our voltage fell off from 33.3 where the battery started to 29.6. We're still pulling. Batteries are holding at 29.0. RPM went up to 26.065. We're at 1.8, 3/4 on the trigger. Here we go. We're climbing, climbing, climbing. Ripple's already come down because the caps have already started to discharge, and it's holding our voltage at 27.5. See the batteries are you can see the batteries are trying to keep that 30 volts. It's trying to keep it. So depending on how good your battery voltage is, that's going to determine on how many RPMs you're going to get out of this motor. So here we go. We're almost to full trigger. We're at 265 on the RPM. We're 1.9 on the throttle, and our voltage sag is at 26.7. So now we're going to start hitting the maximum voltage sag right here. So we're already at full trigger right here. And we have a long way to go in this run. So we're full trigger. We're 2.011. So 2.002 is full trigger. We're already over full trigger according to what the ESC knows. Our ripple's down to 0.29. Our batteries are down to 26.4. Our voltage sag. So it's probably going to sag a little bit more because we're finally into full trigger for a minute. ESC sucking up everything it can. Voltage sag is down to 26.3. RPMs are up to 36.643. And now we're full trigger and we're riding it out. And as you see, RPMs are coming up, coming up. Voltage sag 26.1. That seems to be where my battery stopped before when I was reverse geared. I never dropped below 26.1. I think we got down as low as I've ever seen on the third run was like 25.9. But the batteries, believe it or not, these roaring tops do pretty good, as old as they are. So here we go, 26.1. Our RPMs are climbing, 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 climbing. Right there you can see we went from 38 to 39 to 38.9. It dropped a little bit. There's a little dip there. What that dip is it's the RC on uneven ground. So it probably got a little airborne and dug back into the ground a little bit. That's where the surface plays a big part into your numbers. Use this data as a tool. This is not like God. This isn't, you can't base everything off what this data is saying, but it gives you an area to look at. Voltage sag, as you see, came up right there. So our battery is starting to recover now because the RPMs are starting to max out for that voltage. And now the battery can start recovering because it has all that reserve. It should be at, 30 volts. So we had a little dip here, probably got a little airborne somewhere. And now look at our RPM, 39,984. We're almost maxed out. And that's it. We pretty much maxed out somewhere right around here. It hit probably 40,000 when it got airborne somewhere here. So, and our voltage sag is starting to come up. Now we're at 27 volts. So you can tell that the motor's not going to spin up anymore because it just doesn't have any more voltage. That's why it's not hitting the 56,000. 56,000 would be the maximum, at 30 volts. We just don't have the 33.3 volts that number on the Castle motor is rated to. That would be the maximum it could hit. So here we go. Batteries kind of stabilized at 27.7. They did recoup. We're still full trigger. Nothing's changed. And that's it. As you notice, the motor starts slowing down. It got a little airborne right in there. 38. So when the RC's bouncing off the grass, the wheels are spinning up and then digging in and then spinning up and digging in. So every up and down that it's doing on the grass, every time it goes down, those cleats bite into the mud even harder and it drops the voltage down. As you see, it drops the voltage down, but it will pick up speed. Or not the voltage, it drops the RPM down. So when it bounces up, the RPM will go up. And then as the RC pushes into the grass, the cleats are going to bite and it's going to sag that RPM, the motor RPM down a little bit. But it will continue to pick up speed. I'm going to go ahead and turn on power out now. So to give us this screen, we're going to check the second run. So here's our second run. You can see how long I was on full trigger here. Same thing. So you can see we started out this run. Our batteries are now at 32 instead of 33 because we've already made a pass in them. This is why I try to keep my runs to 2 to 3 passes, because the more passes you make, the batteries are going to sag even farther. But look at our voltage sag. The minimum of it ever hit was 26.5. The other pass hit 26.1. So batteries are strong, I'm telling you guys. So we're going to go through this. Now this hit 40,906, almost 41,000 RPM, and that's because we ran 2 soccer fields. We're going, look at the maximum power out we hit on this run. 100.2%. We everything it had, we gave it. So that's telling me it's time to gear up, and we're going to keep gearing up, and the RPM's probably going to drop a little bit. Now remember, our last RPM was 36 and some change, almost 37. We only picked up, 3,000 RPM by doing this huge gear change. But since it was so far reverse geared, this is going to be my new starting point. So here we go. We're into our run. You can see our throttle coming up and we hit full trigger. Let's get over to, you can see right here is where I let off the trigger right here because that's that little jump at the pole. I always let off right here. You can see that the voltage tells you. So we're at 30, 30, hit the little jump. $29, voltage sag 29, we're still coming up, 28, full trigger, and our voltage sag is 27.5. And all we have available is 32.8 instead of 33.3 this time. Here we go, we're going ahead, we're full trigger pull. We're already at, and we haven't even, right when I hit the pole, I did the same thing and I showed you guys the skid mark where I hit full trigger. That's where we're starting from here. So this is the second soccer field now, and we're at 39,020 on RPM. And we're gonna hit maximum RPM right about here. So we hit maximum for the voltage. Our voltage sag is 26.7. We've already topped out on our gearing for the voltage, 26.6. Our voltage is coming down. Now our voltage went up, 26.7. Give us a little bit more power. 39 RPM, 39, 39. See, the motor's starting to catch up, but look, our voltage is going up too, 26.9. The batteries we're at 27. 27 on the voltage, we're at 39,611 RPM. 39.11, and then we start to fall off. And our voltage, well, I'm starting to let off the trigger, but our voltage is already recouped, 28 volts. And there we go. Now we're braking. So that's telling me at this point it's time to gear up. So we're going to make a pinion change, leave the center alone. We're going to make a pinion change and go from there. But during this whole thing, my BEC voltage never dropped below 5.4. And that's important because when that starts to drop, you'll start to lose signal. Even though I have a booster, you can still start to lose signal if your BEC voltage starts to fall off. And there's a couple of reasons. One is that you're constantly turning the steering wheel, which is draining some of the BEC voltage. The other thing, you're taking a lot of voltage here. You know, if your voltage here starts dropping to 20 volts, your BEC voltage is going to fall off big time. So, and that's it. That's our data log. So we're going to gear up. I don't want to save this data. No need to. I mean, I could to compare it to the next run, but I just don't need to. It's all on videotape. We're going to go ahead and clear out the log. I'm going to do a pinion change. I'm going to go up. I'm a 29. The next pinion I have is a 34. So we're going to be 34, 39 on our gearing. And I'm going to get these batteries charged up, get everything cleaned up, and get it back out there hopefully today. Make another rip and see if we can pick up some speed, because our speed fell off, and that's because of the big gearing change. But there we go. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you on the next video.